Your cat isn't just being cute when it presses its paws into your lap over and over again. That motion is wired into its brain from the moment it was born, and the real reason behind it has almost nothing to do with comfort the way most people assume. By the end of this, you'll understand why some cats need blankets instead of people, why certain cats drool while they do it, and why one specific theory about this behavior is starting to get pushback from animal behaviorists who study it closely. Kneading starts long before a cat ever meets you. Kittens, only days old, will push rhythmically against their mother's belly with their front paws, alternating left and right in that same pattern you've probably seen on your couch. That motion physically stimulates milk flow from the mammary glands, so nursing kittens essentially massage their way into a better meal. Here's where it gets interesting, though. Most cats stop needing to do this for milk within a few weeks of weaning, yet the behavior sticks around for their entire lives. Researchers call this a vestigial behavior, meaning it's a leftover reflex from infancy that never got switched off, similar to how some adult dogs still suck on fabric or toys. So why doesn't the behavior just fade out once a cat no longer nurses? The leading explanation ties back to brain chemistry. The repetitive motion of kneading triggers the release of endorphins and, in many cats, also stimulates oxytocin, the same hormone linked to bonding and relaxation in mammals across the board. That's not just a guess pulled from nowhere. Veterinary behaviorists have observed that cats often purr, half close their eyes, and even drift towards sleep while kneading, which lines up almost exactly with the relaxed state seen in nursing kittens. Your cat's body is essentially replaying a memory of safety from when it was completely dependent on its mother. But there's a second layer to this that a lot of cat owners never hear about. Cats have scent glands located in the pads of their paws, and every time they knead a surface, they're depositing a small trace of their own scent onto it. In the wild, this functions as a quiet form of territory marking, even though it's nowhere near as obvious as scratching or spraying. This means when your cat needs your lap, your blanket, or even your arm, it's doing two things simultaneously: soothing itself the way it did as a kitten, and marking you or that object as part of its safe, familiar space. You're not just a comfortable surface to your cat. You've essentially been claimed. Now, here's the part that surprises a lot of people who think this behavior is universal among all cats. Kneading intensity and frequency vary wildly between individual cats, and some never really grow out of needing physical contact with their mother before doing it. Kittens separated from their mothers too early, before roughly 8 weeks of age, tend to knead more obsessively as adults compared to kittens who stayed with their litter the full natural weaning period. That detail has led some researchers to view excessive adult kneading, especially combined with sucking on fabric, as a possible sign of early life stress or premature separation, though this is still debated among veterinary behaviorists and isn't considered a confirmed diagnosis. It's a pattern worth watching, not a definitive answer on its own. Have you ever noticed your own cat seems to choose certain objects to knead more than others? That's not random either. Soft, plush textures that compress easily under paw pressure mimic the give of a mother cat's belly far better than a hard surface like a wooden floor, which is part of why blankets, pillows, and human stomachs are such common targets. There's also a theory connecting kneading to nest-building instincts inherited from wild feline ancestors. Before domestication, female cats would press down tall grass and soft ground cover to create a flattened, comfortable spot before giving birth or settling down to rest. Some behaviorists argue that modern kneading is partly an echo of that nest preparation instinct, layered on top of the nursing reflex. That would help explain why kneading often happens right before a cat lies down to sleep, almost like it's still instinctively preparing the spot, even though there's no actual nest to build anymore. Old instincts don't disappear just because the environment around them changed completely. Claws come into this too, and not in a small way. Older cats, especially ones whose claws have grown thicker or sharper with age, can knead hard enough to genuinely hurt, even though the behavior comes from affection rather than aggression. Trimming nails regularly or placing a thick towel over your lap before a known kneading session is a simple fix that a surprising number of owners never think to use. Male and female cats both knead, and there's no strong evidence that one sex does it noticeably more than the other, which contradicts a fairly common myth floating around online. What does seem to matter more is individual temperament and early life experience rather than gender. Here's the detail that tends to surprise people the most. A small number of cats drool while kneading, sometimes heavily enough to soak through a blanket. This isn't a medical problem in most cases. It's simply an extension of the same relaxed, nursing-associated state, since salivation was already happening reflexively during actual feeding as a kitten, and some cats never fully separated that response from the kneading motion itself. So, the next time your cat climbs into your lap, kneads for 30 seconds, and then collapses into a nap on top of you, you're watching a behavior that's part memory, part hormone release, part scent marking, and possibly part leftover nest instinct, all happening at once, without your cat consciously thinking through any of it. There's also a timing pattern worth paying attention to. Kneading tends to spike during specific life stages, particularly right after a stressful event like a move, a new pet joining the household, or a trip to the vet. Cats lean on familiar self-soothing behaviors during periods of change, the same way a person might bite their nails or pace around a room, and kneading happens to be one of the most reliable tools already built into their nervous system. This is also why declawed cats sometimes knead more cautiously or less frequently. Without claws to grip into a soft surface, the motion doesn't feel the same, and a few owners of declawed cats report a noticeable shift in how often the behavior shows up at all. It's a small but telling sign of how physical the act really is, not just a vague emotional gesture layered on top. Temperature plays into this too, in a way most people never connect to the behavior. Cats are drawn to warmth, and a kneading session frequently happens right on top of a warm laptop, a sun-soaked patch of carpet, or a human body that's naturally giving off heat. Combine that warmth with a soft surface, and you've recreated almost the exact physical conditions of nursing as a kitten, which may be part of why certain spots in your home seem to trigger it more than others. Some breeds appear to knead more intensely than others, based on patterns reported by longtime breeders and shelter staff, though formal breed-specific research on this is still limited. Ragdolls and Maine Coons, for instance, are frequently described as heavy, enthusiastic kneaders, while some short-haired breeds seem to do it more lightly or less often. None of this is set in stone, since individual personality still plays the bigger role. It's worth pointing out what kneading is not, since it gets confused with a few other behaviors fairly often. It's distinct from scratching, which serves to shed the outer claw sheath and mark territory visually rather than through scent glands alone. It's also separate from making biscuits, which is really just the informal nickname people gave this exact same paw motion because of how it resembles pressing dough. Does your cat knead you, a blanket, or something else entirely? Drop it in the comments, because I'm curious how common each version actually is among everyone watching this. And if you want more videos breaking down the real science behind everyday cat behavior, stick around and subscribe, since there's a lot more of this coming.